As Arthur mentioned, MiniWiz is basically a technology company in which we find ways to recycle material. But many wonder how MiniWiz started. But it always started with the basic main idea and basic, I would say, a feeling, which is anger. Anger of the way of plastic's been treated, anger of the way that waste has been treated globally. And if you see the statistics globally, it actually makes you a little more, because when we read that, let's say, countries, like developed countries like the US, have a 34% recycle rate. And considering that this is the richest and most powerful country in the world, but they have the lowest rate among developing countries, that actually makes a little angry, makes all of us a little angry, because they have the possibility, and they should have the possibility, but other countries can do it in little amounts. And if they do it, that would be great. Which that launches into this journey, into this mission that has already been taken 16 years. It started 16 years ago, and we're trying to find new ways to turning post-consumer waste into material and objects. And with this in mind, and keep this in mind, with material and objects that people actually want and people actually need. With that in mind, and as part of the architecture project, and well, I wish I can thank Arthur because of showing those videos before, and it's about this project. 7 years ago, we started one of our main projects, which was, by the way, was widely documented by National Geographic, in which 1.8 million bottles of post-consumer recycled PET bottles, all collected by Taiwan citizens, would turn into a 9-story museum. And as part of, as I mentioned, in the architectural side, a museum that also complies with all the building regulations, including earthquake, typhoon, and fire. But mostly, what we ran into it, and it's very interesting, is that we run a gap analysis onto it. The gap analysis actually treats you and analyzes how carbon has been traded among the process, telling you how material has been made, how much toxic material has been input into it, and also how much carbon footprint get to produce it. And in this case, what we realized is that if we actually use post-consumer waste into any construction structure, can lead into up to at least 95% carbon savings. But with this, and with this in consideration, and with this among other projects, this as a stepping stone, helped our company grow more than 100 times, with offices now in Asia and in Europe. And with our projects also expanding across 23 countries. But why are we doing this? Or why are we doing all this effort, all this research? It's because we're forced to. Because every single project that we get into it requires a different property, the different specifications, different characteristics, which lead our material team and our engineering to find new ways to recycle post-consumer waste. Nowadays, our company produces 7 new materials a month, on average. And we have a collection of over 1,200 materials that we created, all from post-consumer waste. And why all this? With this in consideration, we would like to point out that all these materials, where did they end up? What we're trying to do is enforce and create a solid base for a circular economy. And in many ways, we consider that 2 key features can achieve that circular economy. One is attract the consumer. Attract the consumer with let's call it beautiful sensory experiences, with objects, design objects and attractive objects are within reach. And the second one is also educate. Educate the future architects, the engineers, the designers, and even the consumers about a circular way of doing things, of making goods. And maybe this will snowball into bigger movement, maybe a global movement. And with that, and in order to push that thing out, and in order to push that, and try to push this incentive, this year, MiniWiz is opening its material database, and also our manufacturing specifications for educators and students worldwide. So we can inspire, we can help, we can give tools for them, for their future generations to include this into design, and consider also that this is also a material, that this is also a prime material that can be used nowadays, considering how waste works. But now going back to my department and going back to the design business that we are into, circular construction. How do we achieve this? How can you incorporate this into the regular architecture, let's say, line of work, or design line of work, not just architecture, product as well? We have 4 key elements that we consider in a company. In every design, whatever we design, we still have the flexibility of designing anything. But we have 4 key features, which are, all our elements have a mechanical fastening system, so it could be easily demountable. Single material, so it could be recycled with a minimum effort, without a separation process. No glue, so the material is mechanically designed to be disassembled with minimal effort as well. And modular design to ensure that the material or product that we create can have a second life, a continuous life. As we say there, design for a second life. Everything that we design have a future in mind, have the next step in mind. For example, what happened with the building? What happened if the building cycle is over? That material can be taken back. What happened if the building had to be restructured? That material can be remodularized and reassessed without actually throwing it or wasting it. With this in mind also, we have proven undoubtedly that we can turn post-consumer material, post-consumer waste into consumer products. We have worked with big brands, and all these products, we proved that it worked with lower costs and high performance. We have also worked with brand activations with major companies like Nike, like Starwood, like Philip Morris, or even Coca-Cola. All using on all these big brands, as we know, of course, because they are some of the biggest users of material that we have in the world. And also an architecture, basically. We built 40-story buildings, 9-story high museums, we built residential units, residential buildings, recycling facilities, campuses, hospitality buildings, and even outdoor structures, all using trash. Also, then not just exteriors, also in interiors. We work with hospitality, with restaurants, residential spaces, office spaces, corporate spaces, even retail spaces. All this with the basic consideration, all this in full compliance of all the local building regulations and codes, all using trash. We also had the opportunity to work in several infrastructures, like the biggest recycling plant for e-waste, and which is an interesting point because this plant actually takes e-waste to, of course, so everybody knows, to take the precious materials out of it. But on our side, we studied and re-engineered the waste of the waste. So we took that material, recomposed it, and included and redesigned it and included it into the building structure itself. We also collaborated with a food recycling plant, it was a very interesting collaboration because what they do is just they separate the food waste into 2 bulks, a dry bulk to create methane and power the same plant, and a wet bulk to create bioplastics. And also, even in the car industry, We're working on a car recycling plant using car waste material. Will be finished this year. Also, in another stand, let's say another chapter, a few years ago, well, we started a collaboration with Jackie Chan, Trespresso. We call it Trespresso, which is, back then it was a few years ago, yeah. Back then, the first mobile plastics and fabric recycle plant, designed to tackle waste by creating a automated, self-powered, because you use solar power, industrial-grade platform, recycle platform. But its mission is mostly to inspire people, to show people how the recycling process works in its basic elements and its basic function, and teaching how they can intervene, they can be part of it. In which, for these cases, attendees and visitors, they collect plastic waste and bring it to the site. We can convert it into tiles. Tiles that could be floor finishes or wall cladding. And then that could be just that. The possibilities are infinite. But it's in order to show them what that some simple gesture can have a direct effect and a direct result. With this in mind, we have brought this into small communities or even big cities, and we're traveling around with this. So far, as of today, Trespresso has been showcased in, like in this case, in Shanghai as the inauguration. Been in Tianjin for the 40th anniversary of Jackie Chan Training Center Corporation. Also, last year we showcased it at the London Design Festival, where people can just participate and bring. It was interesting because people start bringing their trash, start bringing their PET bottles by itself, just to see it, just to make a tile, just to put a tile in that bottle. Then you see that effect. It happens there, right in front of you. Also, we brought it to far out locations, like in Qinghai, which is located at 4,500 meters high at the Sadou County, which is South China, in which so small communities can learn from it. And actually, these communities are impressive amount of collaboration, because small communities are very organized. So then organizing them and teaching them, I would say that it was way easier and work clearer than in big cities, because they work like that. They work as a whole community, a sole unit. And this year, we also showcased at the Milan Design Week. We could demonstrate our motto to the public, and mostly our philosophy of teaching visitors the importance of recycling. But also this year, remember when I mentioned the two key features that we think about circular economy? Attracting people, showing people what the post-consumer waste material can be and can become. For that, this year, it's kept on missing. I was thinking about the time. But this year also we opened our Milan office, in which we call it the House of Trash. It's a creative office in which we can showcase. It's a space dedicated for the exploration and showcase of technologies and applications with recycled waste material. And it's directly related with that first point that I mentioned before. That feeling for the consumer of what trash can be. And that's why we inaugurate this at the Milan Design Week. So people can see it, people can feel it, have a direct relation on how beautiful materials can become out of post-consumer waste. Using fabric waste, packaging waste, coffee cups, even mobile phones. We created living areas, bedrooms, office spaces, all using post-consumer materials. And with this in mind, And what we all say in all our public and all our presentations is just one phrase. Your considered consumer decision matters. We, as consumers, should start thinking about that. Why start thinking about the circular economy in our production, in our industries? We should think about in the way we make our own decisions. For example, if you choose a piece of clothing, you buy a piece of clothing, be sure that it's a single material piece of clothing you bought. That very same piece of clothing, they're very simple, ensure that it could be recycled. It can show that it can have a second life. And what I'm trying to say with this is, we always try to before, and we still blame big corporations or the status quo for not doing enough for the environment. But our decision also matters, because our decision is what dictates what they're selling, what is produced. But if our part in our mind start thinking about the second life of all things that we have at home and the extended life for it, that will help our purpose in all industries, from personal all the way to the industry and commercial. Thank you.